Welcome to Bedtime Science. Did you know that nearly all of the serotonin in your body is made not in your brain, but deep inside your gut? It's true. About 90 to 95% of your body's serotonin, the molecule most people associate with happiness and calm, is produced in the lining of your intestines. Your brain makes only a small fraction of it. Tonight, we explore the quiet conversation between the brain and the body. In the next moments, we will gently discuss how the brain monitors the body through a region called the insula, why the vast majority of serotonin is produced in your gut and not your brain, how expectation alone can trigger the release of real dopamine, what light landing on your skin does to hormones deep inside your body, and how chronic stress can age your cells by nearly a decade. Before we begin, if you find comfort here tonight, consider subscribing to join our quiet community. And if you are still awake, you can leave a soft comment about what topic we should explore next. Now let's begin. Somewhere behind your forehead and tucked beneath the outer folds of your brain, there is a region called the insula. It's not large. It doesn't get the attention that the amygdala or the hippocampus receives. But the insula does something that shapes every waking second of your life. It listens to your body. Right now, as you lie still, your insula is reading signals from your heart, your lungs, the walls of your stomach, the temperature of your skin. It does this without your permission and without your awareness. You don't have to think about your heartbeat for your insula to track it. You don't have to focus on your breathing for this small region to notice each rise and fall of your chest. This is your first fact tonight. The insula splits its attention between two worlds, the world inside your body and the world outside it. It sits at the border between internal sensation and external awareness, constantly toggling between the two. And it does this all day, all night, even now. When you feel a vague sense that something is wrong, but you can't explain why, it may be because the insula has detected a change in your internal state before your conscious mind has caught up. A slight increase in heart rate, a shift in gut tension, a change in blood pressure so small you'd never notice it with your thinking mind. But the insula notices. There is a word for this process: interoception. It refers to the brain's ability to sense the internal condition of the body, not touch, not hearing, not vision. Interoception is the sense that points inward. Your brain monitors your heartbeat without you counting it. It tracks the oxygen levels in your blood without you taking a deliberate breath. It reads the stretch of your stomach walls and the tension in your intestinal lining without you ever placing a hand on your abdomen. This is happening right now, inside you. Most people go through their entire lives never learning the word interoception, and yet it shapes mood, emotion, decision-making, and even how you experience pain. People with strong interoceptive awareness, those who can accurately count their own heartbeats without touching their pulse, tend to experience emotions more vividly. They feel things with more precision. That doesn't mean more intensely. It means more clearly. The body is constantly generating a kind of internal weather report. Temperature, pressure, chemical balance, muscle tension, immune activity. Every second, millions of signals travel upward from the body through the spinal cord and into the brainstem, and from there into the insula and other cortical regions. Your brain reads this report continuously. It never stops. And here is something that makes this even more interesting. Your nervous system doesn't just monitor your own body. It can begin to mirror someone else's. This is called autonomic matching. When two people sit close together, especially if they trust each other, their heart rates can begin to synchronize. Their breathing patterns may align. Their skin conductance, a measure of subtle arousal in the nervous system, can start to rise and fall in parallel. This is not a metaphor. It has been measured with electrodes, heart monitors, and skin sensors. Two people who feel connected can begin to run on similar physiological rhythms. Some researchers believe this is part of the neural basis of empathy, not just understanding another person's emotions intellectually, but physically feeling a version of their internal state inside your own body. Your insula reads their signals as if they were yours. Think about that for a moment. You might have experienced this without knowing what it was. Sitting beside someone who is anxious and feeling your own chest tighten, or being near someone calm and noticing your own breathing slow down. These are not just social cues. They are measurable shifts in your autonomic nervous system, triggered by proximity to another body. The body is always talking, and the brain is always listening. Now let's move deeper, into a place most people don't think of as part of the nervous system at all. Your gut. The lining of your small intestine contains specialized cells called enterochromaffin cells. They are scattered throughout the gut wall, embedded among the cells that absorb nutrients. They are small, quiet, and they produce the vast majority of your body's serotonin. 90 to 95%. That number is not a rough estimate. It has been confirmed through biochemical measurements and published in peer-reviewed research. The gut is, by a wide margin, the body's largest serotonin factory. But here is the part that surprises most people. That serotonin cannot reach your brain. There is a barrier between the bloodstream and the brain called the blood-brain barrier. It is extremely selective about what it lets through. Serotonin molecules produced in the gut circulate through the bloodstream, but they are blocked from entering the brain. They influence the gut itself, the cardiovascular system, bone metabolism, and blood clotting, but they do not cross into the central nervous system. So how does the gut influence your mood? The answer runs along a long, wandering nerve that stretches from the base of your skull all the way down into your abdomen. It's called the vagus nerve. The word vagus comes from the Latin word for wandering, and it is the longest cranial nerve in the body. The vagus nerve doesn't carry serotonin molecules. It carries electrical signals. When enterochromaffin cells in the gut detect something, whether it's a specific nutrient, a microbial metabolite, or even the physical stretch of the intestinal wall, they can activate nearby vagal nerve endings. These nerve endings then fire electrical impulses upward through the vagus nerve into the brain stem. The first stop is a region called the nucleus tractus solitarius. From there, signals branch outward to areas including the dorsal raphe nucleus and the locus coeruleus. These are regions that regulate mood, alertness, and emotional tone. Not a single serotonin molecule crosses the barrier, but the information gets through. The gut speaks in chemistry. The vagus nerve translates that chemistry into electrical code, and the brain receives the message in its own language. This is one of the reasons your emotional state can shift after eating, or when your digestion is disrupted, or when the microbial population in your gut changes. The gut and the brain are in constant dialogue, but they use different languages, and the vagus nerve serves as the translator between them. Enterochromafin cells are themselves remarkable. They act as chemosensors. They can detect the presence of specific sugars, amino acids, fatty acids, and short-chain fatty acids produced by gut bacteria. They also respond to mechanical stretch, meaning they can sense when the gut wall is being expanded by food or gas. When they detect these stimuli, they release serotonin locally, which activates vagal afferent fibers, those nerve endings that send signals toward the brain. The whole system operates below conscious awareness. You never feel it happening, but your mood, your energy, your motivation, your sense of calm or unease, all of these can be shaped by signals that begin in the walls of your intestine. Your gut is not a passive tube. It is a sensory organ. It detects the chemical environment inside your body. It communicates with the brain through electrical signals, and it does this every moment of every day. Even now, as you rest, your enterochromafin cells are quietly sampling the contents of your intestine and sending reports upward through the vagus nerve. You will never be aware of it, but your brain is listening. There are roughly 500 million neurons in the gut. That's more than in the spinal cord. This network is sometimes called the enteric nervous system, and it can operate independently of the brain. It manages the rhythmic contractions that move food through the digestive tract. It regulates the release of digestive enzymes. It coordinates the opening and closing of sphincters along the gut. All of this happens without a single conscious thought. The enteric nervous system can function even if the vagus nerve is severed. The gut has its own local intelligence, but under normal conditions, it is in constant communication with the brain, and this two-way conversation influences everything from appetite to anxiety. Let that settle for a moment. The next group of facts looks at something you do every day without much thought: tasting. On the surface of your tongue, there are clusters of receptor cells grouped into structures called taste buds. Each taste bud contains between 50 and 100 individual receptor cells, and each of those cells is tuned to detect specific types of molecules. But here is something that a researcher named Dr. Charles Zucker helped reveal. The brain's taste cortex contains a map, not a map of the tongue, but a map of taste qualities. Sweet signals arrive in one area, bitter signals arrive in another, salty in a different spot, sour in yet another. These regions are spatially separated. They don't overlap. The brain keeps each taste quality in its own distinct zone. This means that when you eat something, the experience of flavor is not a single blended sensation. It is a set of parallel signals, each traveling along its own dedicated line, arriving at its own specific region in the cortex. Like separate keys on a piano, each one producing its own note, each one reaching the brain through its own pathway. Now consider what happens when a bitter molecule touches your tongue. Bitter receptors on the tongue activate. A signal travels along specific nerve fibers to the brainstem, and from there to the bitter region of the taste cortex. But something else happens at the same time. The face responds. The muscles around the eyes tighten. The lips pull back. The gag reflex may activate. The whole body recoils slightly. All of this from a single type of molecule touching a few cells on the surface of your tongue. This is not a decision. It's not something you choose to do. It's a hardwired reflex built into your nervous system over millions of years, designed to protect you from potentially toxic substances. Most bitter compounds in nature are produced by plants as a defense against being eaten. Your body learned, long before you were born, to treat bitterness as a warning. The signal moves fast, from tongue to brainstem to cortex to facial muscles in a fraction of a second. No thinking required. What you experience as craving or disgust begins as automated chemical signaling between your tongue and your cortex. The feeling of wanting to eat something sweet, or the revulsion at something rotten, starts as molecular detection at the cellular level. Your conscious experience of taste arrives after the brain has already processed the raw signal. You think you decide what tastes good, but by the time you become aware of the flavor, your brain has already categorized it, mapped it, and begun responding to it. Even saliva production changes based on taste. Sour foods trigger more saliva. The parotid glands respond before you consciously register the sourness. The body is already adapting to what's in your mouth before your mind has fully recognized it. There is a reason for this speed. In evolutionary terms, the difference between swallowing a toxic berry and spitting it out could be measured in seconds. The taste system evolved to act first and inform consciousness second. And this principle extends far beyond the tongue. Your body responds to light in ways that go far beyond vision. When ultraviolet light or blue light lands on exposed skin, it can trigger measurable increases in certain hormones. Research discussed by Dr. Andrew Huberman has described how light exposure to the skin can lead to increases in testosterone and estrogen, not through the eyes, through the skin itself. This sounds strange at first. We think of light as something the eyes process, but skin cells contain photosensitive molecules. When ultraviolet photons strike these molecules, they initiate biochemical cascades that can influence hormone production in distant organs. The skin is not just a barrier. It is a sensory surface that responds to the electromagnetic spectrum. Now consider your eyes, not for vision this time, but for a different kind of light detection. In the retina, there is a class of cells called intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells. They contain a pigment called melanopsin, and they don't contribute to image formation. You don't see with these cells. Instead, they measure the intensity and spectral quality of ambient light, and they send that information to a part of the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which acts as the body's master clock. From there, signals travel to the pineal gland, which produces melatonin. Here is what happens when bright light hits your eyes at night. Melatonin levels drop, not gradually. They plummet to near zero within moments. The pineal gland receives the signal that light is present, and it shuts down melatonin production almost instantly. This is why looking at a bright screen before bed can disrupt your body's sense of time. It's not just that the light is stimulating. It's that specific cells in your eyes are telling the pineal gland that it's daytime. And the pineal gland responds by halting the production of the hormone that signals darkness to the rest of your body. Your spleen also responds to light information, not because light touches the spleen. Light never reaches it directly, but through indirect neural and hormonal pathways, information about the external light environment reaches the spleen and influences immune function. The spleen sits deep inside your body, shielded from any direct exposure to light, and yet its activity changes based on whether it is day or night outside. The immune system is not separate from the circadian system. They are linked through these hidden pathways. Your body is organized around light in ways you never feel. The hormone cortisol follows a rhythm tied to light and darkness. It peaks in the early morning, usually within 30 to 45 minutes of waking, and gradually declines throughout the day. This rhythm is influenced by light exposure, feeding times, and physical activity. When the rhythm is disrupted, whether by shift work, jet lag, or irregular sleep patterns, the effects ripple outward into immune function, metabolism, and mood. Even skin cells have their own circadian clocks. They repair DNA damage more efficiently at certain times of day. The timing of sun exposure matters not just because of cumulative UV dose, but because the skin's repair machinery runs on a schedule. Your body is a clock, or rather it is thousands of clocks, ticking together, coordinated by light. Let that thought rest for a moment. The next set of observations deals with something that seems impossible. The idea that what you expect to happen can change what actually happens inside your body, not in your imagination, in your neurons, in your neurochemistry. In 2001, a team led by Raul de la Fuente Fernandez published a study that measured something no one had directly observed before. They gave Parkinson's disease patients a placebo, an inert substance with no active drug, but they told the patients it was a real treatment. Then they measured what happened inside the patients' brains using a technique called raclopride PET imaging, which can detect dopamine release in real time. What they found was this. The placebo triggered real dopamine release in the dorsal striatum, a brain region that degenerates in Parkinson's disease. The patient's brains released actual dopamine in response to an expectation, not in response to a drug, in response to a belief. The magnitude of this dopamine release was comparable to what you'd see with actual dopaminergic medications. The brain produced its own medicine. This was not a subjective report. It was not patients saying they felt better. It was a measurable neurochemical event captured on a brain scan, showing dopamine molecules flooding a specific brain region because the patient expected relief. Dopamine is sometimes described as the molecule of reward, but that's an oversimplification. Dopamine is more accurately understood as a signal of motivation and prediction. As Dr. Huberman has described it, dopamine acts as a kind of universal currency for the brain's motivational system. It's the brain's way of saying, pursue this, move toward this matters. When the Parkinson's patients expected the placebo to help them, their brains generated a dopamine signal that said, relief is coming. And the brain didn't just predict it, it began producing it. Later studies extended these findings. Researchers found placebo-induced dopamine release not only in the dorsal striatum, but also in the nucleus accumbens, a region associated with reward and motivation. Expectation was reshaping neurochemistry in real time. This is not magic, it is prediction. The brain is a prediction engine. It constantly generates forecasts about what is going to happen next, based on past experience, context, and belief. When those predictions are strong enough, the brain begins preparing the body for the predicted outcome. If the prediction says pain relief is coming, the brain may begin releasing endogenous opioids. If the prediction says reward is coming, the brain may begin releasing dopamine. The placebo effect is not the absence of treatment, it is the presence of prediction. And this prediction doesn't just affect dopamine. Studies have shown that placebo treatments can alter heart rate, blood pressure, immune markers, and cortisol levels. In some pain studies, The analgesic effect of a placebo was reversed by naloxone, a drug that blocks opioid receptors. This confirmed that the brain was releasing real endogenous opioids in response to the placebo. The pain relief wasn't imagined, it was biochemical. Consider what this means. The ritual of receiving treatment, the white coat, the clinical setting, the confident tone of a doctor's voice, the act of swallowing a pill. All of these contextual signals feed into the brain's prediction machinery. They tell the brain that something helpful is about to happen, and the brain begins making it happen before the drug, if there even is a drug, has time to take effect. Medical rituals are not decoration. They are inputs to a neurochemical system that runs on expectation. Even the color of a pill can influence its effect. Studies have found that red and orange pills tend to be perceived as stimulants, while blue and green pills are perceived as sedatives. The effect is not large, but it is measurable. The brain uses every available cue to build its prediction, and it adjusts its neurochemistry accordingly. The shape of a capsule, the taste of a liquid, the frequency of dosing, all of these influence the strength of the placebo response. The more convincing the ritual, the stronger the prediction, and the greater the neurochemical shift. Your brain doesn't wait passively for chemistry to arrive from outside. It generates chemistry in advance, based on what it believes is coming. Let this settle quietly. The body doesn't just respond to what's happening. It responds to what it thinks is about to happen. And this predictive machinery runs all day, shaping your physiology in ways you never notice. When you smell food cooking and your mouth begins to water, that's prediction. Your brain has learned that the smell of food precedes eating, and it starts preparing the digestive system in advance. Saliva production increases. Stomach acid secretion rises. Insulin may begin to be released before a single calorie enters your body. This is called cephalic phase response. The brain prepares the body for what it expects based on sensory cues. Your body is always living slightly ahead of the present moment, always preparing for what the brain predicts will come next. Now we turn to something heavier, but we'll move through it gently. Stress. In 2004, Alyssa Appel and Elizabeth Blackburn published a study that changed how scientists think about the relationship between psychological experience and biological aging. Elizabeth Blackburn had already won the Nobel Prize for her work on telomeres, the protective caps at the ends of chromosomes that shorten as cells divide. Appel and Blackburn studied a group of 58 premenopausal women. Some of these women were caregivers for children with chronic illnesses. Others had healthy children. The researchers measured the length of the women's telomeres and the activity of an enzyme called telomerase, which helps maintain telomere length. What they found was striking. The women who reported the highest levels of perceived psychological stress had telomeres that were significantly shorter than those of the low-stress group. The difference was equivalent to approximately 9 to 10 years of additional biological aging. 9 to 10 years. Not from smoking, not from a disease, from stress. And it wasn't just perceived stress that mattered. The duration of caregiving independently predicted shorter telomeres, lower telomerase activity, and greater oxidative stress. The longer a woman had been caring for a chronically ill child, the more her cells showed signs of accelerated aging. This study didn't prove that stress causes aging directly. Biology is more complicated than that. But it demonstrated, for the first time in a controlled study, That psychological experience and cellular aging are correlated in a measurable, specific way. Your telomeres don't know what you're thinking, but they respond to the hormonal and inflammatory environment that your thoughts create. Chronic stress elevates cortisol. Chronic cortisol exposure increases oxidative stress and inflammation. Oxidative stress damages telomeres, and shorter telomeres are associated with higher rates of age-related disease. The mind doesn't touch the chromosomes directly, but it sets in motion a cascade that reaches them. Think about that chain for a moment. A thought, a feeling, a hormonal shift, an inflammatory response, a change in oxidative balance, a shortening of the protective caps on your DNA. From mind to molecule, one step at a time. And the reverse is also true. Physical changes can affect the mind. This is not a one-way street. Research by Dr. Tony Wiscore at Stanford has explored what happens when young blood is introduced into older animals. In parabiosis experiments, where the circulatory systems of a young mouse and an old mouse are surgically joined, the older mouse shows signs of cognitive rejuvenation. Memory improves. Neurogenesis increases in the hippocampus. Markers of neuroinflammation decrease. The circulating proteins in young blood can cross the blood-brain barrier and alter gene expression in the aging brain. This is a physical substance carried in the blood, changing the function of the brain. Not a thought, not a belief, a molecule. The body can heal the mind, and the mind can change the body. The connection runs in both directions. This bidirectional quality is one of the most important principles in modern neuroscience. For a long time, the brain was treated as the commander. The body was seen as the vehicle. The brain gives orders. The body follows. But that model is incomplete. The body sends more signals to the brain than the brain sends to the body. The vagus nerve, which we discussed earlier, is roughly 80% afferent, meaning 80% of its fibers carry information from the body up to the brain, and only about 20% carry information from the brain down to the body. The body is not waiting for instructions. It is constantly reporting, constantly informing, constantly shaping the brain's decisions from below. Your immune system communicates with your brain through cytokines, small signaling molecules that cross into the central nervous system and influence mood, motivation, and cognition. When you're fighting an infection, it's not just your body that slows down. Your brain changes too. You feel tired. You withdraw from social contact. Your appetite shifts. Your motivation drops. This is called sickness behavior, and it's not weakness. It's a coordinated strategy. The immune system tells the brain to conserve energy and redirect resources toward fighting the infection. The brain complies, not because it decided to, because the body told it to. You feel the effects as fatigue, low mood, a desire to be alone. But what's actually happening is a molecular conversation between immune cells and neurons. Even your posture can influence your emotional state. Standing upright versus slouching can affect cortisol and testosterone levels. The body's physical configuration feeds back into the hormonal system, which feeds back into mood and cognition. The relationship between body and mind is not hierarchical. It is circular. Let's slow down here. Breathe just for a moment. Your insula is reading the state of your body right now. Your enterochromaffin cells are sampling the contents of your gut. Your vagus nerve is carrying signals upward. Your pineal gland is producing melatonin in response to the darkness around you. Your telomeres are sitting quietly at the ends of your chromosomes, neither growing nor shrinking in this restful moment. Everything we've talked about tonight is happening inside you, right now. Let's continue gently. The brain has a structure called the anterior cingulate cortex that sits along the midline, just behind the frontal lobe. It plays a role in monitoring conflict between competing signals. When the body sends a pain signal, and the brain simultaneously predicts that relief is coming, the anterior cingulate cortex helps mediate between those two streams of information. In placebo analgesia, this region becomes more active. It participates in suppressing pain signals based on the brain's expectation that the pain will decrease. The brain doesn't just passively receive pain, it actively modulates it. Pain is not a simple readout of tissue damage. It is a constructed experience, shaped by context, expectation, memory, and attention. Two people with the same injury can experience very different levels of pain because their brains are constructing the pain experience differently. The brain decides how much pain to let through. Soldiers wounded in battle have sometimes reported feeling no pain at the moment of injury, only to feel it hours later when the threat had passed. The brain suppressed the pain signal because, in that context, attending to pain would have been a survival disadvantage. Once the danger was gone, the brain allowed the pain to surface. This is not mental toughness, it's neurochemistry. The brain released endogenous opioids, endorphins, and enkephalins that bound to opioid receptors in the spinal cord and brainstem, physically blocking pain transmission. Your brain has its own pharmacy. It produces its own painkillers, its own mood regulators, its own sedatives, and it dispenses them based on prediction, context, and need. The heart is another organ that communicates with the brain more than most people realize. The heart contains roughly 40,000 neurons. It has its own small nervous system, sometimes called the cardiac nervous system. These neurons can sense heart rate, blood pressure, and chemical changes in the blood, and they send signals to the brain through the vagus nerve and spinal afferent pathways. When your heart rate changes, your brain knows about it within milliseconds, and this information influences emotion. Research has shown that the phase of the heartbeat, whether the heart is contracting or relaxing, affects how the brain processes fear-related stimuli. During the contraction phase, the brain is slightly more reactive to threat. During the relaxation phase, it is slightly calmer. Your emotional state fluctuates with each heartbeat, not dramatically, but measurably. The heart sends about as many signals to the brain as the brain sends to the heart. This is another bidirectional circuit. The brain can speed up or slow down the heart through the autonomic nervous system, but the heart also informs the brain about the state of the body, and the brain adjusts its emotional processing based on that input. You are not just your brain, you are the entire conversation. The lungs also participate in this dialogue. The rhythm of breathing directly influences brain activity. When you inhale, the brain becomes slightly more alert. When you exhale, it becomes slightly calmer. This is because inhalation activates the sympathetic nervous system, and exhalation activates the parasympathetic nervous system. This is why slow breathing exercises work. By extending the exhale relative to the inhale, you shift the balance of the autonomic nervous system toward the parasympathetic side. Heart rate decreases, blood pressure drops, cortisol production slows. One breath at a time, the body quiets itself. You can do this right now if you like. A long, slow exhale, letting the air leave your lungs gently. And as it does, your vagus nerve activates. Your heart rate decreases. Your brain receives the signal that the body is safe. One breath, one signal, one shift. The skin is the body's largest organ, and it does far more than act as a wrapper. The skin contains its own immune system, its own microbiome, and its own neuroendocrine signaling. It produces vitamin D in response to ultraviolet light. It synthesizes neuropeptides. It communicates with the brain through a dense network of sensory neurons. When someone touches your arm gently, a specific class of nerve fibers called C-tactile afferents activates. These are slow-conducting fibers that respond preferentially to light, stroking touch at a speed of about 1 to 10 centimeters per second. They send signals not to the somatosensory cortex, which processes precise touch location, but to the insular cortex, which processes emotional significance. Gentle touch is rooted to the emotional brain, not the analytical brain. This is why a soft hand on your shoulder can calm you in ways that words cannot. The signal bypasses the language centers entirely. It goes straight to the part of the brain that processes how the body feels. And this is why isolation, the absence of touch, can be so physiologically disruptive. Without C-tactile stimulation, the insular cortex receives fewer calming inputs. The nervous system loses one of its gentlest regulatory signals. Touch is not a luxury, it is a biological input. The immune system, which most people think of as a defense against infection, also communicates extensively with the brain. Immune cells produce cytokines, and these cytokines can cross into the brain and bind to receptors on neurons and glial cells. Pro-inflammatory cytokines like interleukin-1 and interleukin-6 can reduce dopamine release in the reward system, leading to a state called anhedonia, the inability to feel pleasure. This is one reason why people with chronic inflammatory conditions often experience depression. It's not just the burden of being sick. The inflammation itself is altering brain chemistry. And it works the other way too. Psychological stress activates the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, which increases cortisol, which suppresses certain immune functions while amplifying others. Chronic stress tends to increase systemic inflammation while decreasing the body's ability to fight specific infections. The mind inflames the body depresses the mind, round and round. But this loop can also be interrupted. Meditation practices, for instance, have been shown to reduce markers of inflammation. In a study by David Creswell and colleagues, an 8-week mindfulness program reduced interleukin-6 levels in older adults. The mechanism likely involves reduced activation of the stress response system, which lowers cortisol, which reduces inflammatory signaling. A mental practice changed a molecular outcome. The gut microbiome adds yet another layer to this conversation. The trillions of bacteria living in your intestines produce neurotransmitters, short-chain fatty acids, and other metabolites that influence brain function. Certain strains of gut bacteria produce gamma-aminobutyric acid, or GABA, the brain's primary inhibitory neurotransmitter. Others produce precursors to dopamine and norepinephrine. When the composition of the gut microbiome changes, whether through diet, antibiotics, or stress, the chemical messages reaching the brain through the vagus nerve change too. Studies in mice have shown that altering the gut microbiome can change anxiety-related behavior, social behavior, and stress reactivity. In one experiment, germ-free mice, raised without any gut bacteria at all, showed exaggerated stress responses compared to mice with normal microbiomes. When the germ-free mice were colonized with a single strain of lactobacillus, their stress responses normalized. One species of bacteria, one change in behavior. The gut is not just digesting food, it is participating in the regulation of your emotional life. Your muscles also communicate with the brain in ways that go beyond motor control. During exercise, muscles release molecules called myokines into the bloodstream. Some of these myokines can cross the blood-brain barrier and influence neurogenesis, the growth of new neurons, particularly in the hippocampus. This is one reason exercise improves mood and cognitive function. It's not just increased blood flow. It's a molecular signal from the muscles to the brain, telling the brain to grow. The body builds the brain, literally. One myokine in particular, called irisin, has received attention for its role in converting white fat to brown fat and for its potential neuroprotective effects. It's produced by muscles during sustained exercise, and it circulates through the bloodstream to reach distant organs, including the brain. When you move your body, you are not just burning calories. You are sending chemical messages to your brain that say, grow, adapt, protect. And when you stop moving, those messages diminish. The lymphatic system, long thought to be absent from the brain, was found in 2015 to have a counterpart in the central nervous system. Researchers at the University of Virginia discovered meningeal lymphatic vessels, now called the glymphatic system, that drain waste products from the brain into the body's lymphatic system. This drainage happens primarily during sleep. While you sleep, the spaces between brain cells expand by about 60%, allowing cerebrospinal fluid to flush through the brain tissue and carry away metabolic waste, including amyloid beta, a protein associated with Alzheimer's disease. Your brain cleans itself while you rest, and it can only do this properly during deep, sustained sleep. This is one of the reasons sleep deprivation has such profound effects on cognition and mood. Without adequate sleep, the glymphatic system can't fully clear the brain. Waste accumulates, neural function degrades. The body's maintenance systems operate on schedules. They don't run when you want them to. They run when conditions are right. The bones in your body also communicate with the brain. In 2007, Gerard Carcenti's lab at Columbia University discovered that osteocalcin, a hormone produced by bone cells, crosses the blood-brain barrier and influences brain function. Osteocalcin affects the production of serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine in the brain. It also plays a role in memory and learning. Bones are not just structural support. They are endocrine organs. They produce hormones that influence mood and cognition. When you think of your skeleton, you probably think of something rigid and static. But living bone is dynamic. It is constantly being remodeled. Osteoclasts break it down. Osteoblasts build it back up. And during this process, bone cells release signaling molecules that communicate with the brain, the immune system, and the metabolic system. Your skeleton is part of the conversation. Fat tissue or adipose tissue also communicates with the brain. Fat cells produce a hormone called leptin, which signals to the hypothalamus about the body's energy reserves. When fat stores are adequate, leptin levels are high, and the brain reduces appetite. When fat stores are low, leptin drops and hunger increases. But this system is more nuanced than a simple on-off switch. Chronic overeating can lead to leptin resistance, a condition where the brain stops responding to leptin's signal despite high levels in the blood. The message is being sent, but the brain has stopped listening. This is a breakdown in communication. The body is speaking, the brain has tuned out. And the result is a persistent sense of hunger, even when the body has more than enough energy stored. The liver communicates with the brain too. It monitors glucose levels, amino acid concentrations, and the presence of toxins. When blood sugar drops, the liver signals the brain through hepatic vagal afferents, and the brain initiates hunger and glucose-seeking behavior. When the liver detects excess alcohol or other toxins, it sends signals that contribute to nausea and aversion. You've probably experienced this without knowing the mechanism. That vague discomfort after eating something your body doesn't tolerate well. The subtle loss of appetite during illness. These are not random feelings. They are messages from your organs, translated into sensation by your brain. The kidneys regulate blood pressure and electrolyte balance, and they communicate with the brain through both neural and hormonal pathways. They produce renin, which initiates a cascade leading to angiotensin II, a molecule that acts on the brain to increase thirst and salt appetite. When you feel thirsty, it may be because your kidneys detected a drop in blood volume or an increase in blood sodium, and they initiated a hormonal signal that reached your brain and created the conscious experience of thirst. You think you decided to drink water, but the decision was influenced by a molecule produced in your kidneys. Let's pause here for a moment. Just rest with these ideas. Your body is not a collection of separate parts. It is a communication network. Every organ sends signals. Every signal influences the brain, and the brain, in turn, sends signals back that reshape the function of every organ. The heart, the gut, the lungs, the bones, the skin, the liver, the kidneys, the fat, the muscles, the immune system, all of them talking, all of them listening, all of the time. And you experience this conversation as you, your mood, your energy, your sense of ease or tension, your hunger, your calm, your restlessness. What you call your inner life is partly the sound of your organs in dialogue. The vagus nerve, which we've mentioned several times tonight, is the main highway for this conversation. It innervates the heart, lungs, gut, liver, and spleen. It carries parasympathetic signals that slow the heart, promote digestion, and reduce inflammation. And it carries afferent signals from all of these organs back to the brain. Vagal tone, the strength of vagal activity, can be measured through heart rate variability. People with higher vagal tone tend to have better emotional regulation, lower inflammation, and greater resilience to stress. Their vagus nerve is carrying stronger, more coherent signals between body and brain. And vagal tone is not fixed. It can be increased through practices like slow breathing, cold water exposure, and certain forms of meditation. You can strengthen this communication channel through deliberate practice. You can teach the body and brain to talk to each other more clearly. The autonomic nervous system, the system that manages heart rate, digestion, pupil dilation, and sweating, operates in two modes. The sympathetic branch activates during stress, preparing the body for action. The parasympathetic branch activates during rest, promoting recovery and maintenance. These two branches are not opponents. They are partners. At any given moment, both are active. The balance between them determines your physiological state. A slight shift towards sympathetic dominance increases alertness and muscle readiness. A slight shift toward parasympathetic dominance promotes digestion and calm. This balance shifts dozens of times per hour. It responds to your thoughts, your body position, the temperature of the room, the sounds around you, and the rhythm of your breathing. Right now, as you rest in the dark, your parasympathetic nervous system is gradually increasing its influence. Your heart rate is slowing. Your breathing is deepening. Your digestive system is more active than it was during the day. Your muscles are releasing tension. This is the body shifting into its maintenance mode. Repair, restoration, communication. The brain during rest is not idle. Regions of the default mode network become active when you stop focusing on external tasks. This network includes the medial prefrontal cortex, the posterior cingulate cortex, and the angular gyrus. It is involved in self-reflection, memory consolidation, and mental simulation. When your mind wanders before sleep, drifting from thought to thought without effort, that is the default mode network at work. It is sifting through the day's experiences, making connections, storing what matters, releasing what doesn't. This is not wasted time. It is essential processing. The brain needs periods of unfocused rest to consolidate learning, integrate emotional experiences, and prepare for the next day. Without these periods, memory suffers, emotional regulation degrades, and cognitive flexibility declines. Rest is not the absence of work. It is a different kind of work. And the body supports this work through every system we've discussed tonight. The gut sends calm signals through the vagus nerve. The heart maintains a steady rhythm. The immune system conducts its patrol. The glymphatic system begins to clear waste. The muscles release their grip. The entire body is coordinating to create the conditions for rest. You are not just falling asleep. You are being lowered into sleep by every organ in your body, working together, communicating through nerves and hormones and molecules, orchestrating a shift from wakefulness to rest. The adrenal glands, which sit on top of the kidneys, participate in this transition. During the day, they release cortisol in a rhythm that peaks in the morning and declines in the evening. As night approaches, cortisol levels fall, and the inhibitory effects on the immune system and inflammatory responses ease up slightly. This is part of why immune activity increases at night. The body takes advantage of lower cortisol to ramp up repair and defense. Fever tends to rise at night. Inflammatory processes are more active. White blood cells circulate more aggressively. The body does its heaviest maintenance work in the dark. You may have noticed that you often feel sicker at night than during the day, even with the same illness. This is not your imagination. Your immune system is genuinely more active after sunset because cortisol, which suppresses certain immune functions during the day, has receded. The body has a schedule, and it follows it whether you're aware of it or not. Growth hormone is released primarily during the first few hours of deep sleep. It stimulates tissue repair, muscle growth, and fat metabolism. Children produce more growth hormone than adults, which is part of why sleep is so critical during development. But even in adults, growth hormone released during sleep contributes to tissue maintenance and recovery. This release is pulsatile. It comes in bursts, and the largest burst occurs during the first cycle of slow-wave sleep, usually within the first 90 minutes of falling asleep. If you disrupt the first 90 minutes of sleep, you can significantly reduce growth hormone release for the entire night. The body's maintenance window is narrow and specific. Sleep is not a passive state. It is an active physiological program, choreographed by the brain and executed by the body. The body also processes emotions during sleep. During REM sleep, the brain replays emotional memories while the stress-related neurochemical norepinephrine is at its lowest levels. This combination allows the brain to process the emotional content of memories without the accompanying stress response. This is sometimes described as overnight therapy. The memory is preserved, but the emotional charge is gradually reduced. Over successive nights of healthy sleep, a painful memory may retain its factual content while losing some of its emotional sting. If REM sleep is disrupted, this emotional processing is impaired. The memory retains its full emotional charge. Over time, the accumulation of unprocessed emotional memories can contribute to anxiety and mood disorders. Your body processes feelings while you sleep, not through conscious thought, through neurochemistry. The muscles relax during REM sleep through a process called atonia. The brainstem sends signals that inhibit motor neurons, effectively paralyzing the voluntary muscles. This prevents you from acting out your dreams. Only the diaphragm and the eye muscles remain active, which is why this stage is called rapid eye movement sleep. This paralysis is a protective mechanism. Without it, the body would move in response to dream content, potentially causing injury. In rare conditions where this mechanism fails, people physically act out their dreams, a condition called REM sleep behavior disorder. Even in sleep, the body is being carefully managed by the brain. Every muscle, every gland, every system is being monitored and adjusted. The temperature of your body drops during sleep. Core temperature decreases by about 1 to 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit, reaching its lowest point in the early morning hours. This drop is regulated by the hypothalamus and is part of the circadian rhythm. A cooler body temperature promotes deeper sleep. This is why a cool room helps you fall asleep. You're not just more comfortable. You're aligning your external environment with the body's internal program. The brain's temperature also drops during sleep, and this cooling may play a role in the restorative functions of sleep, allowing metabolic processes to slow and waste clearance to become more efficient. Your body is a system of rhythms: heartbeat, breathing, hormone cycles, temperature fluctuations, immune activity, brain wave oscillations. All of these rhythms interlock and influence each other, creating a unified physiological state that shifts between wakefulness and rest. And every one of these rhythms is part of the mind-body conversation. When the heart slows, the brain relaxes. When the brain relaxes, cortisol drops. When cortisol drops, immune activity rises. When immune activity rises, cytokines signal the brain to rest. When the brain rests, the glymphatic system clears waste. When waste is cleared, neural function improves. When neural function improves, the brain regulates the body more effectively. Round and round, system supporting system. This is what the mind-body connection really means. Not a vague spiritual idea, not a motivational slogan, a measurable physical biochemical reality. Signals traveling along nerves, molecules circulating in blood, receptors binding ligands, genes being expressed or silenced. The body and the brain are not two separate things that happen to share a space. They are one system, communicating through dozens of parallel channels, adjusting and responding to each other every second of every day. And this system has been evolving for a very long time. The vagus nerve is ancient. It appears in vertebrates going back hundreds of millions of years. Fish have a vagus nerve. Amphibians have one. Reptiles, birds, mammals all have variations of this wandering nerve connecting brain to body. The enteric nervous system is even older. Some scientists believe that gut-based nervous systems predate brain-based nervous systems in evolutionary history. Early organisms may have had neurons in their guts long before they had anything resembling a brain. The body was listening to itself before the brain existed. Interoception, the ability to sense internal states, is one of the oldest functions of the nervous system. Before organisms needed to see or hear or think, they needed to know whether they were hungry, whether their internal chemistry was balanced, whether their tissues were intact. The first nervous systems were body-sensing systems. Awareness of the external world came later. So when you feel a gut feeling, when your heart races before your mind catches up, when your body knows something before you can articulate it, you are experiencing one of the most ancient functions of the nervous system. The body has been listening to itself for 500 million years. And tonight, right now, that ancient system is doing what it has always done: monitoring, adjusting, communicating, keeping the conversation going. Your insula is reading your heartbeat. Your vagus nerve is carrying signals from your gut. Your enterochromaffin cells are sampling the contents of your intestine. Your pineal gland is releasing melatonin into your bloodstream. Your cortisol is low. Your parasympathetic nervous system is dominant. Your muscles are relaxing. Your core temperature is dropping. Every system is coordinating. Every organ is participating. The body is preparing for rest, and the brain is responding to the body's signals. This is what it feels like when the mind-body conversation turns quiet. Not silent, never silent, but soft, steady, rhythmic. The signals continue, the molecules circulate, the nerves fire gently, cells respond, tissues adjust. 500 million years of evolution brought you to this moment, to a body that knows how to monitor itself, to a brain that knows how to listen, to a nervous system that bridges the two, carrying messages back and forth through the dark interior of your body, where light never reaches, but where the conversation never stops. The body continues its quiet dialogue. Signals travel. Cells respond. The heart beats its slow rhythm. The breath rises and falls. And somewhere within this steady, ancient conversation, sleep gently arrives.